I'm Daniel Findley with the Institute for Transportation Research and Education at NC State. Along with my colleagues at ITRI, we completed a research study in 2007 sponsored by the North Carolina Department of Transportation on large fueling centers. This study was designed to develop a thorough understanding of the trip generation characteristics of large gas stations or fuel centers with many pump islands, which are becoming more common, and it is necessary to understand the trips that they generate so appropriate road improvements can be made. Specifically, this study sought locations with 8 or more fueling positions and some facilities with name brand fast food and drive-thrus. These images show examples of the types of facilities that were of interest in this study. Again, these locations had to have a minimum of 8 fueling positions to be included. In addition to including only locations with 8 or more fueling positions, this study also wanted some locations that had large truck volumes with fast food on major routes, and locations with primarily passenger cars and fast food. The passenger car locations were evenly split with fuel stations that had and didn't have fast food services. Furthermore, there was some geographical balance of locations across the state. Data collection occurred between February 6th and April 25th, 2007, and was summarized as shown on this form. The data collection avoided local high school spring breaks and local college spring breaks, as well as any adverse weather events. The morning peak hour was counted between 7 a.m. and 9 a.m., and the afternoon peak hour was counted between 4:30 p.m. and 6:30 p.m. The research team counted locations with between 8 and 24 fueling positions for passenger cars, and between 2 and 13 fueling positions for trucks. Pass-by trips are trips associated with vehicles that are already on the road adjacent to the development, who stopped at the fueling station and then continued on their route. These trips do not significantly impact the adjacent roadways, like trips that are generated to the area specifically for that business. This study found that overall, approximately 60% of trips were pass-by trips. This finding is consistent with other similar studies of fuel stations. Additional details that were collected for each site included whether or not a fast food restaurant was present, the number of fueling positions, the size of the convenience services and fast food restaurant, the traffic volume on adjacent roadways, and the parking positions at each location. Multilinear regression equations were developed for the morning and afternoon peak hour time periods. These equations are recommended for other locations that are within the calibration limits of the data included in this study. For instance, those with between 8 and 24 fueling positions. The variables in the equations include the total daily traffic volume of the adjacent roadways and any nearby freeway type facility, whether or not the location is considered a hybrid site, which means that food service options are available, but not as a name brand chain fast food restaurant, and whether or not there is a drive-through window. For the calculation of trips at hybrid locations, the site cannot have a drive-through window. These equations were able to more accurately estimate trips for large fueling stations than the ITE trip generation rates and the average rates generated from the data. A handout to supplement the ITE Trip Generation Handbook was developed by the research team and is available at the link in the video description. The handout includes details of this study's recommendations and an example calculation. Thank you for your interest in this research effort. In addition to a full report that was delivered to the NCDOT, a paper was published in the June 2011 edition of the ITE Journal.